Dr. Rob Bell. Well, welcome to another fantastic episode of The Bar, Dr. Rob Bell.
We're back.
Welcome.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We are here at LDR Studios in Noblesville, Indiana, one of the most finest studios in central Indiana you're going to find.
Nice.
That's
really
excellent.
nice.
Excellent grammar, Brandon.
We have a little bit of a different setup today. This is, I kind of feel like the chair judge at the U.S. Open a little bit, but that's okay, right? Yeah?
You just keep looking me in the eyes.
Just going to stare at those baby blues.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I call you Dr. Rob, though, all the time if I do that?
Yeah,
only when I'm talking about your blue eyes.
You got it.
Okay. That sounds good. Eric, how are you?
Great. How are you?
We're doing good, man.
Good, good.
Dr. Rob, before we get rolling on this episode, as we normally do, we like to share a couple of different resources for anybody out there that's listening in. We hope you're listening in anyways, and we appreciate if you have listened to past podcasts. But being that we are a men's mental health nonprofit organization and focus on mental health, we like to at least lead in with some resources anyway. So if you're listening out there, you can text the word Refuge to 494949. We've had a nice relationship with Remedy Live, I think, for quite a long time. Those guys are good.
Yep.
But yeah, it's an anonymous text line. You can reach out to them. Again, text the word Refuge to 494949. A couple of the national resources, the National Suicide Hotline, you can type in 988 or dial 988. I guess they've condensed that now here in the last 6 months, and that's a nice I think addition at least, so it makes it a little bit easier. You can also text 838-255. It's the same outlet anyways, so that's a good thing. And then for our veterans, any of our veterans that have listened, we've had the opportunity to interview a couple of different veterans on this podcast, so we're very grateful for them, for everything that they've done for us and for our country. But that hotline is 1-800-273-8255, or as it is, 273-TALK. So that is another resource. So we like to share that on the front end of our show because we think it's important. So, yeah.
Those are good episodes.
Yeah, and additionally, this is pretty cool, too. In the last 30 days, because we're into October now, last 30 days, we have launched a new website, www.buildingarefuge.org. So all of our podcasts are there. All of our resources are there. You will be there.
Mm-hmm.
We are there. How about that?
Yeah, solid, man.
We're pretty sophisticated here, Dr. Rob.
Brandon and I are very excited about the idea of websites and all that stuff because we don't know jack about that stuff. So we've got brilliant guys like Mike at LDR Studios who put that together for us. It's one-stop shop. They can go there and see all the podcasts. It's resources, everything. It's awesome.
It's pretty neat. I didn't build it.
No, nor did I.
Do you have website experience?
Yeah.
Your website's fantastic.
That's okay.
No, it's really good.
We're going to find out today that Dr. Rob has many skills.
He's got
multifaceted man.
He definitely has a lot of skills. So with no further ado, Dr. Rob, we're going to kind of jump right in here. Like I said earlier, we were kind of prepping all of us for this sophisticated show. We know you, but for those of those folks that are listening and that don't know you, you're going to share a little bit about yourself, but thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. You guys do such a good job, so I'm honored to be here.
Thanks,
we
Rob.
appreciate you coming in. You're an 8-time, how do I say this? You got 8 books out here. This is the most recent book. So those folks that haven't seen this, I can't wait to be patient.
I love that.
But
title.
you have a lot more out there as well, man. So for those of you that are out there, this is a fantastic book. But anyways, I want you to share a little bit about your earlier life, where you grew up, all that good jazz, right? I mean, like I said, I know you, but I know you as Dr. Rob here, Fishers, Indiana.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So take it away.
So just like that?
Just like that.
That's it?
It's all you. Go.
It's all you, buddy. We're gonna stare at you.
So I still have to peg it in the ground and then hit it, right?
That's right.
I was expecting you to tee it up.
We're gonna stare at you here for the next 49 minutes. It's awesome. But yes, please share a little bit about your earlier life, if you would.
Yeah, real brief. So when I was born,
you started breathing?
Sports was always my entire life. I mean, it was the only thing I ever lived for.
But are you from here in Central?
No, I grew up in Maryland. So I grew up in Western Maryland. It was a baseball town, railroad town, blue collar,
nice.
small town. Yeah,
I didn't know that. I thought you were an Indiana guy.
No, I mean, Indiana's home now. I mean,
Yeah.
my kids are Hoosiers. But,
Okay.
yeah, that's where I grew up in Maryland. So, like, that's why I'm a Washington fan and still root for Maryland teams. And
Yeah,
all that,
right on.
You know?
That's a rough life.
And I'm in between, like, Purdue and IU. Like, I don't
you're
get it.
So you're a Terps fan?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't get into any of that.
Good.
But I went to University of Tennessee, so I'm a
Okay.
Vols fan.
All right, that's good. Were you there when Peyton was there?
I was there a few years after him.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
He finished in 97.
I thought you were like just 29 or maybe 30.
29
right?
again.
I did not know you were from Maryland,
Yep.
though. Yeah, I just assumed, and I shouldn't do that, right? I mean, shouldn't do that at all.
So you didn't really let me take it. You just kind of set me up and then just want to go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
What do you want to know?
I-
You asked the question.
I want to know. Okay, tell me one of your best memories of growing up in Maryland.
Jeez, that's a tough one.
You
man.
wanted the questions. We're
Yeah,
getting
see,
to it.
you want me to throw one at you.
I mean, the best memories.
Probably multiple memories, right?
I mean, life was good up till like parents got divorced, you know,
Okay.
and then
I
when
got
that
you.
separation kind of happens, when you're a kid, I mean, everything is like normal to you.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
when you're
yeah,
a kid, everything's normal.
Yeah.
So that was just normal. And I mean, I remember like, because I would tell my kids, like, I wasn't great at anything, but I was good at everything. Like,
Okay.
I could pick up a tennis racket, play a couple times, and I could play.
Yeah.
So sports was always the safe haven,
Yeah.
no matter
Yeah.
what.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite days, it was actually like when my dog died. I was really close to this dog. It was a Doberman Pinscher, and I remember like it was like I'm going to dedicate this game to my dog, you know, because
Yeah.
I was in a lot of pain. And I went out there and I pitched. I was 12 years old, so it was little league.
Yeah. Right on.
But I went for 3 for 3 with a home run, 2 doubles, and pitched a 2-hit shutout.
Get out of
with
here.
no walks. And I remember,
Dude,
I still
that's-
remember that one.
That's awesome.
But you don't want to peak at age 12, man. That's
No.
when I peaked. That's when I peaked. But that was like
That's
slow
awesome, though.
downhill from there.
Yeah, that's awesome, though, man.
So family wise, tell us about your family.
Yeah, family. So mom and dad, and then my brother was about 4 years older, and I had a half sister that was 13 years older. So I was
Okay.
I was the youngest one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Close to your parents?
Well, that's a tough question.
Mhm.
I mean, yes, because they were both great parents. I mean, loving parents.
Yeah.
And I always think, like, I mean, you got to take what you learn and what you need from everybody. I don't think there's not going to be one person besides Jesus that
Yep.
you're just going to say, that's it.
Mhm.
I want to be like that. But I
Yeah.
think so. You take the qualities from both. So the qualities from my mom was just definitely the hard work and driven. I mean, she put herself all through school. So, I mean, I remember she would go to community college, and I would be sitting there, you know, as a 9-year-old, 10-year-old with my book and just sitting there in the aisle sort of stuff,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, my dad was always there for all the sporting events, man. So
Yeah.
It's cool.
You said your parents were divorced. How old were you?
I was
when they-
10.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I went through the same situation. My parents were. I was young. I was only 2 years old, but my brother and my sister were both about that same age, and it's not an easy thing to
Yeah.
go through as a kid. So
I was 10. My brother was 14. So our experiences were then vastly different as well.
Yeah.
You know? And then that, I think whenever I reflect on it, like the thing that was most painful was my brother and I got separated. 'Cause
Yeah.
my brother then went with my dad. I went with my mom. I'm in
Okay.
between playing that game.
yeah. Were you all very far apart where you
No,
lived?
not
or-
too far apart, like
Okay.
location wise.
Yeah.
So did that affect the relationship with you and your brother, or
Yeah.
did it draw you closer?
No, it put a wedge in between us.
Mhm. That's
Yeah.
too bad.
Yeah, I mean it's real. I mean it's I know like we moved from La Crosse, Wisconsin to Indianapolis, and that's about an 8-hour trip, 500 miles, and that was a big gap between my dad and I. And my sister ended up moving back. She came here for 6 months and then she moved back, but we stayed pretty close. My sister and I have always been close. We're 8 years apart in age, but man, it's a real thing. There's a lot of families that go through it, and it's just a part of life. I appreciate you sharing that. And I mean,
and I think the part like I reflect on, it's like there became a lot of like when you're a kid, you don't know how to process anger and stuff. I still don't know how to process it.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
But you don't really understand until like going through it. You just kind of take that anger and you try to put it towards something.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
put it towards sports, put it towards your effort,
Yeah.
which worked up until it didn't work. You know?
Yeah.
Then where does that go? Well, that goes into drinking and drugs.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
drinking, getting high, and partying.
Yeah.
And that derailed then and kind of led into like the story. But that derailed everything then in like high school and all that stuff. I started getting in trouble every 6 months, and that just never stopped.
So did you experiment, start doing that stuff in high school?
Yeah, I was like 15.
Okay.
Because I would never drink, man, never smoke pot because of sports.
Yeah.
And then when that kind of happened and I was at a good enough level, I was like, well, everyone else is.
Right. I mean, you grew up
look
in
how good they are.
Yeah, I mean, you're in that same time frame where like I think everybody went through that, phase in life, I guess. I don't know if I want to. That's weird to put a phase on it, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. We were just at that age when. Did you have a mullet?
No.
Have you ever seen? We've talked about this in
Rob,
previous
here's
podcasts.
the thing.
Have you ever seen Brandon's flock of seagulls?
We have
haircut?
to.
No,
Here's
it's
the
the
deal.
best.
One thing that you're going to find out about the Barcast here, the Bar Podcast, is we like to laugh a little bit too, because laughter is it does lighten things up.
And
a
you
little
will
bit,
laugh
but
if you see his flock of seagulls.
it's pretty amazing.
I would love to see
I got
that.
voted.
I'll show it to you.
Rob, I got voted best hair.
It was just like flock of seagulls.
Just
Not-
like it.
Not most likely to succeed, but best hair.
That's a good one.
Which was pretty good in
I
1988.
think it's fantastic.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it wasn't a perm. It was a
No, it was definitely
because 88 with a lot of perms.
It was a highlighted tips perm. No perm. Let me retract that. No perm, but just it was pretty big hair. So
I'll show it to you. I got it on my phone.
I don't wanna.
Yeah.
I gotta.
Oh, I'll show you. I'm
Exactly.
proud of it. I mean, I'll break it
Exactly.
out
Oh,
on you,
yeah.
so don't worry about
I'd
that.
be proud of it too.
All right. So in high school, what did you play sports in high school?
Yeah, soccer and baseball is what I
Soccer.
focused
Okay.
on.
All right. Right on. And then when you graduate, did you know you were going to go to Tennessee, or how did you make that jump from Maryland to Tennessee?
No, man, I went to a Division II school in West Virginia.
Okay.
And that's kind of where then the story started. You know,
Right
I mean,
on.
I took that class partying,
Yeah.
A plus,
At the
any extra
JUCO?
credit. No, man, that was offered at the high school. They came to high school offered that.
Yeah.
you know?
That's fair. It's fair. Yeah, I got you.
I mean it.
Yeah.
And so when I went to college, I mean, partying was like,
Yeah.
I could really do this well.
Yeah.
And I went there to walk on and play baseball.
Okay.
And it's called Shepherd University there in West Virginia.
Where at in West Virginia?
So right over the bridge over the Potomac River. So it's right near Harper's Ferry,
Okay.
Northern Panhandle.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
If your listeners get this, you know this one?
I don't know that.
I
this
don't
is
know
the-
that one.
so
I-
this is
I'm
the-
offended.
I thought maybe he was just.
This is the
you
map.
can get up, walk off if you want.
We got that on camera.
Yeah,
that's the
oh,
map.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
the map of West Virginia. So this is the Eastern Panhandle right here, and you'll see like Pittsburgh's up there, Charleston's down there.
All right.
So this is where I was.
Okay, fair. I got you.
Yeah.
Where's Marshall?
Marshall's in Huntington.
Yeah, Marshall's Huntington. That's
Okay,
down
got
there.
it.
I spent a little time in Beckley, so I know Beckley.
Beckley.
Yeah, Beckley.
There you go.
Yeah, well, it was work stuff. So I
Time
didn't-
stands still in
Oh,
Beckley.
Beckley's an interesting town. Well, West Virginia in general is pretty interesting.
Yeah,
the
beautiful.
whole state.
How
yeah.
long were you there?
I was there all through college.
2 years,
and
right?
then-
JUCO.
Yeah.
I know that.
I graduated 5 years, so 5 years in West Virginia. Yeah, and then went to
At a-
Temple,
At a
University.
2-year college.
Yeah, exactly, man. No, it was a 4-year. It was Shepherd.
Oh,
It was
okay,
4
all right. So
You were the one that said the JUCO. I was just riding your wave.
Oh
man.
no, that's what I thought Shepherd was. I
No,
thought
no,
okay,
no, it
so
was-
it's 4-year school.
was a
I
real
got you.
school.
Yeah, no, right on.
Yeah,
I got
they
you.
had classes.
It's
and
not like
everything.
Vincennes. That's where I was at, and I played golf there, so I learned how to party.
Oh yeah,
And it was 2 years. I did make it through 2 years. I didn't get a degree in 2 years, but it's all right. I can still play golf, Rob. It's all that
I
matters.
know, man.
It's all that matters, man. I can still
It is.
swing, So, all right. So West Virginia, and then you went to Temple.
yeah. But do you want me to share the story?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I get there and so partying, and for some reason it's like we're partying near this bridge. Near this bridge was a cliff, and I end up walking off a 80-foot cliff. It was after midnight. Just had no idea where I was.
Kidding me.
I wasn't pushed. I didn't jump. I just had no idea. So I remember walking right off this cliff, and I was conscious during the whole time. Man, I fall once. I remember hitting once and then laying at the bottom of this crevasse. I was conscious, but I had a gaping head wound. My arm was broke. My back was in a lot of pain. And then that's where it kind of started. So
Holy smokes.
they had to crane me up out of this crevasse, take me to the hospital where my mom's a nurse. And she's the oldest of 9 Catholic family, right? Like no sympathy on me whatsoever. But I was alive, man. If this happens on a Friday, I'm back to school on Monday. Like she hands me, I want to come back to home, just for a little bit. But then I'm walking around campus now. I'm that guy, right? That's the guy right there that fell off that cliff.
Jeez.
A lot of pain, a lot of medication, and
what year was this?
that was a freshman year, man. I was
But
there.
like, what year is this?
96.
Holy smokes!
So that was, a month into college. So that started off on the right foot.
Dang, man.
So what kind of damage did you sustain?
I still had like a lot. The main thing was just like back.
Yeah.
Had a fractured back, stuff
What
like
were
that.
you doing out there? Was it?
Well, like I said, we were partying.
Okay,
It was 1,
I got
2
you.
o'clock.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah, I got you.
I remember. I think we were walking down to like get high.
Yeah, I got you. You're just hanging. I get you, man. It's
walk off, man.
yeah. So you went back. You were back in class.
Yeah, I was right back on Monday, man. A lot of Percocets, stuff like that. I remember somebody stole my Percocets. Like that's what kind of the crowd, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like, and then what happens like when you're in a lot of pain like that, a lot of emotional pain. It's like because
Well, you're still probably in somewhat shock through like the whole deal.
And baseball was done. You know what I mean? It was like so that was it. And then what do you do when you're in a lot of emotional pain, man? Well, you just keep doing what you're doing. And so like that didn't even stop me from like drinking, getting high.
Yeah.
I had a rector set on my arm. And,
This was you were a freshman.
yeah.
Okay. So had you even started playing baseball yet at the school, or was
all they had at that point were fall practices, and hitting cages.
So you didn't
and
even
stuff
you
like
didn't
that.
make no spring, nothing. This is so
Coach was like, man, glad you're alive. But you're not going to be playing baseball here.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like, wait a minute, my 85 mile an hour fastball isn't like, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I got you. That's a big deal at that age, man. And then especially to go through something like that, that's
But it didn't stop me from drinking. Like I
No,
should have died.
I
You know what I mean?
suppose
Like
not.
God was looking out for me. I totally believe.
Well, we're
that.
going to circle back to that in a little bit, but
Do you want me to keep going?
I do want you to keep going, but I'm going to come back to that because I think there's a commonality with Christ in our life, right?
Yeah.
All right, so you're rolling into spring, Rob, and this is just like this event just happened, this big event. So what's next?
Yeah, you like again when you're in emotional pain.
Yeah,
you hang out with other people that are partying, you know what I mean, and that masks the pain. You
Yeah.
know what I mean, and I was lucky enough because I was smart enough. Like in high school, I never studied one day, and I got straight B's. Right, I was a student. I was like, why work hard and get A's? I can get straight B's and not do anything. Well, in college you can't do that. You know what I mean? That was like there's too much going on.
Yeah,
and then I pledged the fraternity that year, and then probably made the dumbest mistake of my life. So it was Earth Day. So it was April 20th, 1996.
Yep.
Sorry, the cliff happened in 95 then. Yeah.
Okay.
So this was April 20th, 1996.
Okay.
And got drunk, tried to drive back to school, and was then in a car accident. And then had, thank God, they were okay. You know what I mean? But I drifted across center line, hit a van head on, man. It's just the dumbest mistake I've made in my life. And, then broke my jaw and messed up my face, you know what I mean? And then that was the moment that it was like, I didn't care if I hurt myself.
Yeah.
I really didn't. I just never wanted to hurt anybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
With my toxicity. So, that was a huge hinge moment there, man.
Did you face any legal repercussions from that?
Like, it wasn't jail time.
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of community service, and then I had the classes I had to go to, and and then even rehab. I think I did rehab like right away.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then fines.
Yeah.
Fortunate, man.
Yeah. So you referenced the hinge moment.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that?
So I was like, every door has a hinge.
Yeah.
It was Keith Tyner
Yeah.
that told me that one time. We're having dinner and telling him about the book and everything, and he's like, "Oh, you mean like a hinge moment?" I said, or he said like a hinge. I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Well," and then we just talked about it. It's like every door has a hinge, and a door with that hinge is a wall. It just doesn't work. So the hinge in our lives, it's going like doors opening and closing in life. That's because of a hinge.
Yep.
The only door that doesn't have a hinge is a sliding door. I haven't figured that one out yet.
Yeah.
So I just,
You got a roller.
You'll figure
It's
it
got a
out.
roller.
Got it, man.
It's got a roller.
But when it connects who we are with who we're going to become. So like the tragedies that happen in our life, they're immediate because from that moment on, everything's different.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the good things that happen in life, we might not know the impact that one person had on our life till weeks, months, years later. That this was a tragedy, and that was definitely a hinge moment. Man.
Yeah. So what did that affect in your life? Like what changes did you make?
Well, I mean, then it was just really it was a 2x4 moment too, right? Because it had to get hit over the head with 2x4, saying like, look, man, like, look at the plans I have for you. You know, and that's basically what it was, and that was a part that led to getting sober and not being stupid and making good decisions.
Yeah.
That led to me taking the psychology class, man, sports psychology. And then when I took the psychology class, one of those amazing professors, then I knew it was tattooed in my heart. This is what I want to do with the rest of my life, work with athletes, coaches, and teams. You know? And it was like, remember the Dan and Dave commercials that were going on that time? The Reebok, the pump.
Oh, yeah.
So that was going on, and you started rooting for one. So I started rooting for Dan O'Brien.
Yeah.
Okay.
He no heights in the pole vault. This is Olympic trials now. The winner goes to, or top two go to Barcelona, Spain. And it was all who's going to win gold. Well, he no heights at the pole vault. Dan O'Brien goes from first to last, doesn't even make the Olympic team. And I'm like, I cut the story out of the Washington Post because I'm like, how does that happen? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, how does the best not even go? So then he started seeing a sports psychologist. And I was taking the class at that time.
Yeah.
I said, that's what I want to do right then, man.
That's cool.
And then in '96, he won Olympic gold. And
Yeah.
when I met him, I had that frame. He got a big kick out of that when Dan O'Brien seeing that.
You did get a chance to meet him?
Yeah, because it was two hinge moments. Yeah, I had him on my podcast too. And,
That's awesome.
yeah, he struggled with alcohol as well, kind of growing up. And, it was relatable, man.
Man, that's and how old were you? So that was 95, so 96 when that out. How old were you?
I mean, 18, 19.
Yeah.
And that was where I made the commitment. Like when I went to grad school, then I knew that's what I always wanted to do. I moved out to Colorado for a year, be a ski bum, because that's what I always wanted to do. And I was never going to let fear get in the way of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I always said, if you ever get a second chance in life, you got to go all the way.
Yeah.
So then when I got to grad school, like I wasn't going to blow it, man. I was like, I was so dialed in with every part.
Yeah. And that's when you went to Tennessee.
That was Temple University in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Ended up meeting my wife there.
That's
Future.
So we have a guest that we've had on here, a common friend, Rusty Kennedy. Has he ever put you through the exercise of zooming out a little bit? A few times.
I don't know. I don't think so.
No? And just looking at the bigger picture of things and all those things that happen.
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that all the time, man.
I wouldn't be here, man. I mean, it's funny how you can put into perspective the things that happen in your life when you do have that mindset to be able to zoom out and see the bigger picture. And it's only with, I believe anyways, it's only with Christ in your heart that you can see that. You know what I mean? That he allows that to happen. But that's pretty wild. I mean, that's a crazy story.
Yeah. And what I think too is I think like we will see the other side of somebody's perspective of the people we made an impact with.
Oh yeah.
That we have no idea who it is, right? Because all we do is we plant trees we're never going to see.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's shade other people are going to enjoy. We have no idea the results from our actions.
Yeah.
But everyone's life in this world is different because someone else was in it. You know?
I mean, I think it's the whole reason, when we were blessed enough to run into Clark Crosser, who is the, founder of LDR. He doesn't have a microphone on today. I wish he did, but we wouldn't be here doing this without him. And, we wouldn't have come across Clark's path if it wasn't for doing what we're doing with building a refuge, right? So when you think about, the mission that we have with, one story at a time to create hope, I mean, that's essentially what it is having guests like you come on and share these things, right? I mean, Rob, I didn't know you and your background in this event that happened in your life. I didn't know that. I mean, I knew you obviously from church and what you do professionally, and there's some commonality there with some of the golfers that you coach, which is pretty awesome.
And running on the Monon.
And running on the Monon and running into, you're a little better runner than I am, but that's okay because we see each other. You did, Rob told me one time I was out running and I'm not the greatest runner in the world, man. He's like, just short goals, baby. Just get to the next road.
Get there.
And when you get to the next road, just get to the next road.
Make it to the mailbox.
Yeah, it's the best. I mean, it's a mindset, right? I mean, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I riding, running, whatever. I mean, I think about that a lot.
Oh,
so
yeah.
yeah.
And then another strategy that could help is then reflect on, well, at least I'm not back there.
Right.
Right. At least I'm not back at that mailbox.
Right. I
So
made
really
it past
change your
it.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the rears.
I do that in the races all the time, man.
Yeah, you have you've done some pretty amazing. God, I don't even know how the way to classify these, right, man? These ultra marathons, and that is a mindset all in itself to be able to be out there and do that, for the length of time. Like I said, I mean, I've run a full marathon twice, and I can't imagine running 100 miles, but I know I could do it. You know what I mean? It's a mindset of doing it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think anybody can do it, but
All you have to do is just keep moving.
that's right.
That's really all you have to do.
Yeah.
When you break
Yeah.
it down to that simple.
Did you think that
Yeah.
way? Did you think that way, like when you went through this experience of, getting in the accident, even, falling off the cliff or whatever? Was that mindset there?
The mindset that I had, like, up till that point was just from, like, running a lot, like in soccer and stuff like that, and with sports, the kind of lessons you would get from it. That was it. It was
Yeah.
very, very rudimentary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't deep instilled, and because the discipline wasn't there.
Yeah.
Well, and you didn't have the life experience that you have now, right? I mean, you've traveled through a lot of stuff between then and now. And so, and not only that, but the education that you've gained, through becoming a doctor and doing the things that you've done through sports psychology and the people that you've met. I mean, a lot of that stuff. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about your career. Let's talk about, what you're doing now, what the family looks like, all those important things, you know.
So then we fast forward.
You can fast forward. You can, however you want to do it.
Yeah, man. Like, I got to mention Tennessee, though, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'm
for
still
sure.
trying to figure this whole vowels thing out.
Yeah, that
Years
was it,
of school.
man.
Yeah.
Well, I always had, and again, when you're referring to the South, it's Sweet Tay,
Oh, yeah.
but we always had some kin down there right outside Knoxville. So
All right.
I went to a game like real when I was young, man. And I was kind of hooked. So I knew I wanted to go to grad school
Rocky
there.
Top, baby.
That was it, man. But again, everything was dialed in, man. I mean,
Yeah.
that's when the running started. That's when you wake up at this certain time. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't going to be any outside distractions. I got a second chance.
Yeah.
Went to University of Tennessee and then just started working like with some athletes there, getting my doctorate.
So, that's where you need a doctorate. Okay.
And then moved up to Indiana
Mm-hmm.
because my boss had at Tennessee had kind of like submitted my stuff and started teaching at Ball State University, man. So
Oh, right on.
running the
Sure,
sports
sure.
psych program and running the grad school students and all that, and there for 5 years, man, teaching and trying to like start a business. But it became a fish or cut bait moment as well, because it was like I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
They wanted me to like write grants, and I'm
It was in your wheelhouse.
I
Yeah.
want to work with athletes,
Yeah,
helping them
yeah.
get to where they want to go.
Yeah.
And so then another hinge moment, and I don't share this story a lot, because a lot of people like wouldn't get it, what I mean? But I prayed because I've got 2 kids under the age of 5,
Yeah.
newly married,
Yeah.
and I'm not happy, but this is at least like a paycheck coming
Sure.
in.
It's sustainable.
and
yeah.
I have my time, And I prayed about it, and that was the time I audibly heard, God say it was going to be okay. And that was all that I needed, you know what I mean? And like I said, I don't share that a lot, like when I'm speaking, because a lot of people just blow it off. But those that can relate, that was.
I can relate.
And I don't think it was as clear as like Book of Eli, like hearing that, you know what I mean? But it was enough.
You heard it.
I went in and I told him, I said, I'm leaving end of the semester. And he's like, well, it's interesting you tell us that. Really? Because we were changing your position, at the end of the next year. I was going to tell you coming up. So then that was it, man. And God always
That's
provided
awesome.
starting my company and then starting my business, and that was working with athletes, coaches,
Yeah,
teams, helping
yeah.
them build mental toughness.
Yeah, that's cool. That's. So, is it, when you were working at Ball State, were you guys living in Fishers then, or were you living in Muncie?
Well, we were in Muncie for like 6 months, man.
Okay.
It was it was a time like I was
Awesome that
I
you're
was-
like, man, I just hate leaving this place, right?
Oh man, I was like, that was a time I was like outwardly depressed.
Yeah.
You know, not the inward depression.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I was outwardly depressed.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't do this. She's from Philly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a little. I didn't realize your wife was from Philly.
So we were, really thankful to move up here.
Yeah. I have some friends from Philly. They say they can't have anything nice in Philadelphia. I don't know what that means. Does she know that? What that means?
Yeah, they're animals, and I mean that in a good way. It's in a good way. They love it, and I love them for it.
I do too, man.
Yeah,
it's a
I
culture,
really do.
man, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like it is. It's definitely a culture.
I wish Washington fans were like Philly fans. You know what I mean? I really do, man.
It's a breed all on their own.
I have so much respect for them.
Yeah. Well, they've had some heartache in the last year of sports, so
They'll be fine.
they'll be fine.
Yeah.
They'll be good. They'll be good. Well, that's cool. So you made the move back down to Fishers then, right? And that's when your business kind of started to take off. And
I mean, it took a long time, man.
well, yeah, I don't think it probably just happened overnight,
No.
right?
So you working with high school and college when
At
you
that
first started?
point, well, I was working with. I had golfers on
Yep.
the PJ Tour.
Yep.
And then then any kind of client that would hire me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So teams didn't matter. I mean, my benefit of being sports eclectic, right, was like I know everything. Not everything. I know a good amount about every sport, so I could
speak
work
the
with
lingo.
swimming. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could work with gymnastics.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but my pros were golfers on the PGA Tour, and that's
Yeah.
kind of where I took off. And I was fortunate enough to, I was working with Scott Stallings, who won on tour, and this was 2012, and that helped out.
yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then just kind of took off from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, golf is an interesting game. I never played it at that level, but I always thought like playing at a JUCO collegiate level was a pretty big deal,
That
right?
was cool.
Yeah, well, how cool it is, but it
Look, man,
it's
I never got to play.
it's
I
a
think
mindset.
anybody plays in college.
it's a
It's cool.
mindset. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
I can't imagine. That's a rough road. I made that decision after I got back, and I wanted to get into that business, and I made that decision to not do it and keep it a hobby. And a lot of it was what I just learned from people that were doing it, and I don't know if it was just being concerned of like what the future is going to hold, or just seeing
Like pursuing golf,
yeah,
Oh.
yeah, I just
playing,
didn't-
or like club pro.
No, man, I wanted to go the distance on it, man. Like people ask you like, what would you want to be in? Like, that's what I would have wanted to have been for sure from a sports perspective.
Doggish.
Oh my God, yeah. I just never wanted to hate the game, man. I loved it so much that I saw people in it like it was just a job, and I never wanted to have my like love for golf just to be a job.
Mm-hmm.
That just wasn't what I wanted it to be.
So that's a good point you bring up. Like you mentioned in one sentence, you had a steady paycheck, you had young kids, newly married, and then you go to starting your own business. Like, was that kind of a grab 'em and go type of moment for you, or was that a scary time in your life to go into business by yourself?
Yeah, I mean it's both, right? Like I don't think who said it, man? Like Helen Keller said it, right? Life is a daring adventure or nothing at all. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing was, and this was Andre Agassi's strength coach, Gil Reyes, just a fantastic philosophical guy, really neat dude. He said some battles are worth fighting even if some battles aren't worth fighting even if you win. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So fights with my wife. If I win, I still don't win. You
Right.
know?
right,
Like,
yeah.
but he said some battles are worth fighting even if you lose. And I thought that was such a righteous quote, man, because I was like, yeah, I'm willing to go down this path even if it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, I want the shot. That was the main thing. Like,
Yeah.
I know I'm going to miss. That's okay. I still want the shot.
Yeah.
Because only then, if you want the shot, can you make it. You
Yeah.
know? So that was sort of like conditioned, and that's how I've always just thought about it.
Yeah.
Like I'm willing to take that shot even if you lose.
Yeah.
So give us a day in the life of a PGA Tour golf coach.
Oh, from the mental side point? Or
Yeah.
So, I mean,
what does that look like?
So when Mondays are always pretty chill. It depends on if they're playing a pro-am or not. Tuesdays are always like the heavy day for preparation. So my jobs are always in the preparation days, you know.
So you're going out golfing with them? And,
I mean, they'll warm up. They'll play 18. They'll come back, eat, and then go back to more practice and then determine on what's going on. You know what I mean? And then if they're in the pro-am on Wednesday, then they'll play in that. And then the tournament starts on Thursday. So usually by Thursday is kind of when I'm out. And it's you know, what's going to be the mental game plan? Like what keeps you like inside the boundaries of where you need to be.
So are you on Thursday morning you're bouncing, or are you staying around to
it depends. I mean, if I can catch a round, if they're early, I will.
Yeah.
But sometimes I don't always know, and but I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because my job's done.
Yeah. You prepped them.
Unless they do really well, then I'm coming back on Sunday.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. Yeah, it's man, I can't man, I guess I can relate to golf. So outside of golf, what's another sport where you have worked with somebody from a psychological perspective, mentally getting them ready?
Tennis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you name the sport. They're probably like field hockey. I haven't. That's probably, I think, the only sport that I haven't, one way or another.
Yeah, but most other sports I'm thinking
about pros.
Yeah. You've touched it in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just talk about that a little bit, Rob. I mean, from a mental perspective, right? I mean, obviously here on this podcast, we talk a lot about mental health. I heard an interesting way of framing it up the other day in mental fitness. Mm-hmm. And I kind of see you like that, like you're a mental fitness coach, right? Yeah. And I think it's important because I've said this many times, not only on this podcast, but a lot of the discussions we've had. Your brain is like any other organ in your body. You and I can relate to this from running a marathon or whatever. You're not just going to go run a marathon if you don't train for it. You can try, maybe you'll finish, but you got to train. And I think it's the same way from a mental perspective as well. I kind of like to call it mental wellness, right? But I like it also framed up as mental fitness. So talk a little bit about how that parlays over into, the coaching side of thing that you do.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's the exact way to say it, right? The mental fitness, the mental agility, right? Mm-hmm. The ability to take the hits and be able to, as Jake LaMotta has said, like move with the punch, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's definitely the key, man.
Yeah. What techniques do you like? What techniques?
Well, I was getting ready to go into like a sound bite.
Okay.
You want me to give you the sound bite?
I'd love it.
All right. Because the sound bites are the fun part.
Yeah, right? Do it. Like, I want to hear it.
Like mental toughness, mental wellness, it's not going to win you a championship. You have to understand that, right? Like even if you're the most mentally fit person that there is, it's not going to win you anything.
Okay.
But the reality is that if you don't have it, it'll lose it for you. Mm-hmm. That's more of like the key.
Yeah.
What I mean, and the thing is no matter how bad our situation is, though, no matter how bleak an outcome looks, it only takes one.
Yeah.
You can never, ever get away from that. It takes one person, right? One client, one moment, one catch of the ball to turn everything around. That's what we're getting ready for. We just don't know when that is. So in order to be like mental fitness, you have to be ready. You got to be open. And it doesn't even always necessarily mean like we equate it to physical toughness so quickly,
Yeah.
But it's not. It's more than just flipping big tires, man. And it's certainly not doing it on your own.
Yeah,
that's the thing, man.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's how I kind of then equate the mental toughness. But it only takes one. That's what we're getting ready for.
Yeah.
I love that correlation because a lot of the guys that we have on here, and that's why I love that you're here, is it gives, a lot of guys love sports, obviously. So hearing stories that you have, about athletes that you've worked with and things that you've done it's a very cool thing. But like to correlate that with the struggles that guys are going through. And that's why I, in the beginning, wanted to, get an idea of your background and all that stuff. But like to correlate that mental toughness piece, let's take you out of the sports, how to, pluck you out of the sports world and put you into the guy who's sitting in his basement or who's struggling on a daily basis, and some of the techniques and things that they can use to help them make it through some of those tough things. The thing that we talk about a lot of times, that first thing is to just make a decision to do something and to just make a decision, because if you just sit there and waller in it, it'll never get better. So a lot of the techniques that you use with sports easily correlate to life, with men and what they're going through. So maybe talk on that a little bit.
I think when it comes to that, man, I mean, going through recovery, going through AA and like the big book, they had a really epic part there, man. It talked about the 3 things. And I mean, when I get down, this is what you have to do, right? 1, you have to turn it over to God. So you got to pray about it, right? And ask God to remove it. That's what it says. He will grant those prayers.
Yeah.
So you got to pray about it. 2 is you have to, now I'm going to screw it up. You have to turn your thoughts to somebody else.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You have to then be able to connect with somebody else and turn your thoughts towards somebody else in terms of being able to connect with them. And when you think about other people, even when you're thinking about them, like that decision, other people are going to kind of come to mind. You have to be able to turn your thoughts towards somebody that you can help.
Right.
And that gets you outside of your own head. And then when you get outside of your own head, then because I think when we're inside our own head, we're stuck behind enemy lines.
Well, we can allow change to happen then.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the part that I always get back to, man. Like, okay, well, who's somebody you can connect with and just ask how they're doing? And that's the key, man. It's all about the connection piece. Well, what happens is I don't want to connect when I want to isolate, because isolation feels a lot better, But it's like junk. It's like junk food, though, man. It tastes good, but it makes you feel like shit.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
And then on top of that, like you have to do what you don't want to do. You have to do what you don't want to do. And I think that's the part where that mental fitness comes into play. What I don't want to get up at 5 o'clock. You have to get up at 5 o'clock. I mean, you have to do that. I don't want to take a cold shower. You got to take a cold shower. and simply for the fact of when you put yourself through that stuff, no matter how small it is, when you need that moment of strength, then it's going to be there for you. Because now what you've been doing is now you've been slowly building that part of the mind.
Yeah.
And again, that's just one major section, but that's the part that I look at.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the great, I think aspects of having you, come in and share not only your story, but what you do as a profession. There's so many parallels, I think, to, mental health, because, I mean, I can't speak directly to it. I've never been in a state of mind. Erik, you understand this because you've been there. I personally haven't been in that state of mind where you just you have to make a choice, and thankfully, in your case, you made that choice, right? You made that choice to come out of the basement that day. You say you don't know why.
I was led out of it. Yeah.
We know why, right? But, and that's hard. Like that's the part, like even in these shows that we do and even having guests like yourself on, Rob, I'm sure you've been in situations where like this shit sucks, right? Like it just does. Let's just be real about it. That's one of the things we do. And I think, from a standpoint though of the foundation, the basic blocking and tackling, right? You have to make a choice at some point in time or you will get lost. That's the inevitable part of the realistic part of this. My brother was one of the statistics in that, you know what I mean? And because if you knew him, and I've always said this as well, if you knew him before his mental fitness was impacted, he wouldn't be classified as a mentally ill person. But his mental fitness got to a point where it was so deteriorated that he was mentally ill at the point of time he took his own life. And for anybody out there, it's why we do this, man. That's why we have folks like you that come on, you share your story. You've been through some shit in your life. I mean, it's obvious. You've shared it, right? And those are real deals. I'm sure there's other people that will hear this one day. And this is the cool part. This is the part that I'm passionate. I know Erik's passionate. I know LDR. I'm sitting here looking at Dustin and all the team out here, man. I know they all are. We wouldn't be sitting here on a Tuesday night shooting a podcast, right? Somebody will hear it. Somebody will hear that this dude went through a wreck. He was driving drunk. He hit somebody, and he had quite an experience in life with that. He fell off a cliff. He thought that his life was going to go in one direction, and it didn't go that way. But here you are. And that's pretty amazing. So,
can they hear us there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, they can hear us.
Yeah, they definitely can.
All right.
Yeah. So, I mean,
No, I appreciate it, man.
yeah,
I
man.
love you,
I mean, no, I love you too, dude. I mean, it's why I love, and it's quite frankly one of the reasons why I love that we don't have a set plan on these things. You know what I mean? I think it's fun. I think it's fun the fact that we can just let it flow. We can let it organically take its direction that it's going to take. Right? I didn't know that story about you, man. Like I said before, I knew Rob from church. I knew Rob running. I knew Rob playing golf with his son. I knew Rob coaching. You know, outside, but I didn't know your back, and that's what I love about this. You know?
Oh, Rob's got some demons.
Well, we all do. I mean, in all honesty, we all do, right? I mean, I had a conversation earlier today with a friend of mine, man, and it's okay not to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fine. It's okay to have a shitty day. It's okay to just want to walk outside and scream at the top of your lungs, whatever you want to scream, right? However, what I would hope for is things like this, the stories that you tell, the things that you do, inspire somebody to go, I'm just going to take one little step forward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look at that mailbox. I'm going to make it to that mailbox. I'm going to make it to that next road. And I'm going to make it to the next one.
You know, do you think it's okay to stay not okay? Because that's the part that I'm like, you know, it's okay not to be okay. That's all right. But then what you get back to, and I'm not going to use that, man. It's
I mean, Eric, you know, I mean, you can speak to that directly, I'm sure.
Well, it's just what we talk about all the time, making a choice. And it's despite of your circumstances, despite of the consequences of your actions, you got to make a choice. And that's what you did. You know, when you got in a wreck, you know, you realized that, hey, I don't want all this shit for me, for my future family. I don't want this trickle-down effect to happen. You made a choice. And that's what brought you here today. And those are the cool things like that I want to talk about. Like, you've written a lot of books, you know, you've written things, you know, I've read, you know, Don't Shoot on Me, you know, and that's a great book.
Don't shoot on your kids.
Yeah. and it's like, you know, I want to talk about that kind of stuff. You know, what brought you to write that book? What brought you to write, you know, I Can't Wait to Be Patient? You know, what are those things that, the choices that you made and the decision you made to write those?
Well, I mean, I was such a bad writer. Like when I got to college, you take the test out of English 101, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was so bad. Like, you know, you write a couple paragraphs or something, right? And then it's like, or you take the story, interpret it. I was in English 010. Like, I never even got credit. That's how bad of a writer I was. But when I got to grad school and I had a professor, he had to write a thesis, man. I mean, it was 100 and some pages, you know, and it's like, it had to be perfect.
Yeah.
It was only going through that, then did I develop the confidence, okay, then they got a dissertation, so like, well, fuck, yeah, I can write, you know?
Yeah.
And then it was just, okay, well, how do I share the ideas that I think are important, that I think can relate, and that I go through in order to have fodder for, you know, to be able to share it.
Yeah. That's the most difficult thing I've ever done, and I failed at it. I was getting my thoughts down on paper. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I at that time. Now, sometime later on in life, I might do it, but that was the most difficult thing I've ever attempted.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, it's tough. So let's talk about I Can't Wait to Be Patient.
Mm-hmm. So that title came from Scott Stallings. It was one like we were working. I mean, 2011, 2012. He kind of said it, you know, and it was like, you know, I just can't wait to be patient, man. Like, I want the results, right? And I just always remember kind of holding on to it. And it was like, it's just the power of time. I think it's our most precious resource, you know. It grows legs, right?
Yeah.
But we live on a clock with no hands, so we don't know when that end is going to be. And I don't mean the end of, like, even life, but the end of, like, certain things, you know, like when the daughter sits there and she would hold her mother's ear all the time, you know, just rubbing it if we were watching TV or something, you know, and then one day she just no longer did it. And I couldn't say, that was when the last time was, you know, and it's sort of supply demand theory when it comes to time, man. Like, only, you know, when you're young, you have as much supply in the world and very little demand, you know, it starts to shift. But then when you realize that you don't have a lot of supply, that's when the demand is at its highest as well. But when you realize the supply is limited, that's the part of you have to take care of your most precious resource, you know, and that and health. You know? That's why that one was written. And the way that I look at it is like the issues that I go through on a daily basis, the small stuff. It's rooted in one way or another with time. You know what I mean? Like if this person just got out of my way, I could get there a little bit faster. You know what I mean? In the 10 seconds, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I didn't have to wait, and then we've become horrible at waiting, you know? And it was like, I get stressed out at the smallest things like that. And it had nothing to do with my mindset. Well, it did have to do with my mindset, but it had to do with the concept of time. And that's why that one was, I just felt the need. It's like, look, we need to approach our issues through time, because we have that which is important, and then we have that which is urgent.
Yeah.
And urgency trumps the important every time, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so unless you have that in terms of what's really important, who you're spending your time with, then we succumb to the urgent all the time. And I can always like elaborate. Just thought that was kind of intro.
Yeah.
So are your books that you write, are they associated with events in your life, or are they associated with things that you go through
in
both,
your
career?
Yeah,
your
I mean,
life,
I have my stories that are in there and how it relates, but I've always felt the need then to like, let's pull some of the real research that's been out there and how that kind of applies to. And then, you know, what are the certain stories that aren't mine that can relate to that point? You know, here's the point that you want to make. And an airplane reads, man. I want somebody to get on plane from here, fly to Vegas, be done.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, those are the kind of books I think time wise I can focus on. You know what I mean? I'm not one to read 700-800 pages. I mean, it just won't keep my attention. You know,
what's a part in the book that, if you could, maybe there isn't one.
Sure, I can
that's your favorite one.
So the favorite one is probably like from the research that I came across.
Okay.
And the research that I came across was when the top surgeons are away at conferences. There's 2 major conferences a year. When the top surgeons, top cardiologists, were away at these conferences, the mortality rate went down. Didn't go up. There weren't more deaths. There were less. And this was looking at 30-day spans.
That's scary.
And so why? Well, the thing is when the top surgeons were there, and I kind of put it in the book, I said when the cats are away, the mice will play, right? When this way they were playing nice. Those that were in charge at that time, whoever was coming in, they had to make a decision. Is this surgery or is this a wait and see sort of approach, right? And they deferred it, and then they didn't necessarily need that surgery. The top doctors right away, action bias, come on in there, we need to get you in, get the surgery done, right? Well, all surgeries aren't successful. You know what I mean? So when you go through that, there is a risk. Yeah. And some saved, but some didn't. So why was that important? You know, it's like, well, we have such an extreme action bias that you have to do something. And doing something isn't always the best. That's the thing, right? It's sometimes it's like, why do NFL coaches call a timeout to try and ice the kicker? It doesn't work. We know it doesn't work, right?
Statistically,
you don't have to be a genius to do it, right? Well, the one time a coach calls timeout and somebody misses at the NFL level, it works. No, it doesn't work. Just sometimes they're going to miss. Why do coaches do it? Because they have a bias that they have to do something to influence the game. Right. What's the first question that they're going to answer after the game? Why didn't you call timeout? Right. Yeah. You know, you never leave with the timeout going in the locker room, right? And the fact that even though they do it, even though it's not going to make any difference, it actually can help the kicker. They do it because we have this extreme action bias. Right. And that's the part of the action bias keeps us from, reflecting, keeps us from just being still, waiting, being quiet. Even prayer, stuff like that. It keeps you from that. Yeah. And then the phones as well, man. Like we don't even wait anymore, right? I mean, we're scrolling, man. We're action biased. We're doing stuff. Yeah. And when we're always doing stuff, it takes it then when you're not doing stuff to be really, really uncomfortable. Yeah. So then you're automatically going to do it. So what happens is there's not an off switch. We're getting back to the timepiece, like to slow down, man, to pause. And because we as a people are wired to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. Oh yeah. That's how we're wired. The only argument that I have is rhythm is more important than speed. And we focus on the rhythm of life.
Yeah.
Last point, man, since I'm kind of flowing. Right?
No,
Like,
do it. Yeah, flow away, buddy. I love it.
Look at like the hardest workers who put the hustle and hustle culture were farmers. No one's ever going to say farmers don't work hard.
Right.
Right? It's going to be the last thing that comes out of their mouth, right?
Yeah.
Well, farmers have a rhythm to the day. Yeah, they're up at before dawn and they know what they're doing, but then they're still having coffee.
Oh yeah.
You know, still hanging out and having that chicken biscuit, Chick-fil-A.
Oh yeah.
And then they go back and then they have dinner.
Yep. Dinner. That's right.
Not lunch. They have dinner.
Yep.
And then they
do their work.
And then they mend the fence, right? I mean, the fence always has to be mended. But there's a rhythm to life that they have. Well, it's affected us because unless we have the rhythm, it's just speed and urgency towards everything. Man.
Yeah.
And that's the part where it's like, hey, can't wait to be patient. And that is not a book saying, hey, look how patient I am. Like, I'm horrible at that skill.
Yeah.
And there are certain skills that go into the mental framework of, hey, how do we even be patient? But that was
well,
I
think
hope is part of it, man.
I think you can
Sure is.
You can probably even parallel it to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, right? You asked the question, around is it okay to not be okay? I don't think it's okay to stay not okay.
Yeah.
I'll answer that now. I hope that somebody doesn't stay not okay, but I think there's also a rush. We had a guest on one of the shows and we were talking about this, and it was a young man, and we talk a lot about the pressures that kids are under today, and somebody said, man, can't we just slow down and just enjoy life like being a kid? Like, why do you have to just go straight from high school to a college? And straight from college to a career, and straight from career to get married, and straight from career married, getting kids and a house. Like, can we it's okay to slow down a little bit,
Absolutely, man. That was Ferris Bueller. That's what he was trying to teach us the whole time, man.
Right? Just can we just take a day off? Huh?
And that's why when I graduated college, I moved out to Colorado. I always wanted to be a ski bum, man.
Yeah.
So I moved out to Colorado, saved up $5,000 for that year, and then went to grad school after.
Yeah.
And I remember I was going to back out, right? I told my professor, I want to just start making some money.
Yeah.
He said, look, you're never going to get another chance to do it.
That's right.
And it was so true, man.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I applaud you for doing it, man. I mean, I'm sure you learned some great things, even going out there, meeting some great people, and, just probably having some great discussions. And I mean, that's one of the things that, here we hope that we get across to people. I mean, being a part of a community, Clark, the like I said, the guy that helps us out here at LDR Studios and the founder of this place, man, I know he spent some time in Colorado, but it was a community of people that he hung around with. Right. I mean, that's the important part, is to have that community of people around you. And that's one of the things that we're trying to build here at Building a Refuge, is just that community. Right. Yeah. We try to create environments at our meetings that we host monthly at Harley-Davidson of Indianapolis. There's no expectation. Just come out and hang out, man. Come out and be a part of it. See what we do. Hang out with us. Maybe you'll meet a friend. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, I think, when you talk about what led you out of the basement, right? We hope that we just give somebody a little bit of hope. Just crack the door, the sunlight will shine in, man, and you got hope for the next day.
See, and that's the thing about cracks, right? Cracks is how the sunlight gets in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Keep hitting the table.
Well, it's a good lead in to, you and I and Brandon know each other through church, right?
Yep.
And where does your faith play into all this?
Into like the book?
Just life in general, book, whatever you want to talk about.
I mean, my favorite part of my day is when I wake up in the morning about 5-ish, you know what I mean? And I'm running with my chocolate lab. We've got like a 5-mile route that we do, and she knows it, and she's on a leash, but it's in her mouth. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
And just quiet and just that's the prayer time. You know what I mean? And then the meditation part, and I mean, because I still got to be getting after it. You know what I mean? I'm not a sit and meditate guy. I can run and meditate. I'm not listening to music.
Yeah. You're listening to birds. You're listening to the wind.
Man, and trying to listen to the word. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Man, it's always. I mean, it's if you got to go through God through everything. And what I mean by that, it's like when I see what the opponent tries to do, and then it makes sense. Oh, okay. Like, I grew up never believing that the devil. I was like, come on, man. I was like, that's whatever. I just didn't believe it. You know what I mean? But then when I read in Romans, and excuse me on this one, but help me out. But it was like, Roman said, I do that which I don't want to do. And that was such a, I mean, that really
It was a game changer.
And read that again and again. It was like,
it's not you who does it.
Yeah, man, I do that which I hate. And then I was in. And then I really started to kind of read it and I checked that out. And then you could see what the opponent was always trying to do, right? Wants to isolate you, wants to get you away, doesn't want you to have the relationship with your wife, wants the arguments there.
Yep.
That's how.
Chaos.
You know, and then reading like screw tape letters and you kind of see. I mean, that blows my. I couldn't finish that book because it just scared me so much.
Yeah.
You only read half of it too?
I couldn't read. It freaked me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay. So then, you know, but how does that do it? Because we're not always going to see the blind spots.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
That's the part, man. It's like the communities has to be built up before you need it, because when you need it, then that's when it's toughest.
Yeah.
Because you still want to isolate. So I mean that's a part of like you know, God and faith and Jesus. That's in there, man.
Yeah, that verse is something else, man. I mean, that was one that kind of changed my trajectory, I think. Like you, I was raised Lutheran. And
right on, man.
Yeah, nothing, right? High fives, baby.
Nice Creed.
Yeah, man, up and downs, baby, up and downs. You know, and nothing, you know, I'd never be critical of it at all because it was a great upbringing. But, you know, once I unpacked, and Rusty certainly has helped out with that, Rusty Kennedy, you know, once I unpacked what it means to be free in Christ, man, it was a game changer. And that verse was a big one for me, man. That was that one, man. It set me back, and it helped me. It helped me understand the bigger picture of things, and so I think that's really cool that's been a big one for you too. You know what I mean? So
you had there's a couple times you've referenced your wife. Tell us about Nicole and how you met and what she means to you. I know she means a lot.
You just drop the big questions, man. Like they make you
That's what he's
pause,
supposed
reflect,
to do over
like,
here.
Where should I start,
I'm here to
man?
keep it light. He's the one that drives. He brings you back down in the valley again. We like living up where the sun shines.
Nicole's up where the sunshine is. I know that.
Oh, absolutely. Like we joke around because my thing is everything, right? Like my addict's mindset, man. I can be into everything. Her thing is nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that kind of the complete opposite. And that part's always the part that I love about Nicole. And I share this with her. It's like first person I ever told I loved. And I told her that saying, you know, I'm seeing like a couple other girls right now too. Like, but I really like, you know, I think I love you. You know, can we make this work? You know, that's how and then, yeah, man, it was like we started seeing actually a counselor then. You know what I mean? Because it was like, I really want to make this work.
Cool.
First person I ever told her I love.
Yeah.
And I knew the moment that I saw this picture of her that I love this girl. And I already knew her, you know, but I saw that picture. But it was like I still learn something new about her like almost every day. Like I always thought that was like pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And yeah, man, just a fantastic mom, just an incredible mom.
Yeah.
You know, fantastic wife.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Fantastic wife. Yeah, literally the best, you know.
That's awesome. Give us the you got son and daughter, right?
Yeah. My daughter is 15.
That's crazy.
Son's going to be 13.
Yep. Quite the little
man.
golfer.
Time.
Yeah.
Quite the little golfer.
Yeah, loves golf.
I love that, buddy. I love bomb shots, baby. Bomb shots and darts. That's what it's all about.
He loves it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I got a question. Eric usually asks this, but I'm going to ask
Fire
it.
away,
So we ask a lot of our guests this, Rob, but what made you say yes to coming on outside of you just love me and this guy? Like, what made you want to come on here and talk about this stuff?
Well, I mean, yeah, when he asked, I mean, when the podcast got launched, I was like, man, I want to be a guest on that.
Well, I love it.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was the main.
But I mean,
impetus.
just from a standpoint of what we do, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything from a standpoint of, you know, what we focus on that you said, yeah, man, I think my life story could probably be a benefit to share with.
So I would say this, like I've always struggled with relationships.
Okay.
It's always been a struggle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, so I felt if there's a way that I can help somebody, sometimes it can be like from behind the mic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right on.
I know if somebody can listen to it. I always love like talking with people, but I've always felt, man, that I can do this
Yeah.
well.
I love it. I mean, I think it's great. I think you do it well. So with that being said as well, where do they find you?
On that note.
That's right. You see how I lean into that? I'm going to lean into this conversation.
Is this where I turn to the entrepreneur?
That's
Yes.
right. Where can they find Dr. Rob Bell?
Yeah, my website, man,
Okay.
drrobbell.com.
Okay.
Can'twaitbook.com.
Okay.
So
Yeah, right on.
Can'twaitbook.com.
Can't Wait Book.
And I know you're
Tons of
on all the
resources.
social media avenues too, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
for people to be able to connect with you and so on.
On this one, if I can, like on can'twaitbook.com, if you go there, there's like a daily focus roadmap.
Okay.
Somebody, you just download it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I think in terms of like the rhythm of like a day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how, because we got to be in those kind of
Yeah,
like,
you focused on
Yeah.
rhythm.
boundaries.
Yeah, for sure.
That and techniques too, man. I mean, I think when
Yeah.
you get into a place like if it fits for somebody, right, that somebody's listening and they can go out and they can benefit by it, but it's a rhythm, like you said, right? You go to it every day, you do it, it gets to be repetitive, right? And before you know it, you've done it for 6 months. And you're like, oh wow, okay, this is works, right? It's kind of like I said back to the lady that was talking on the podcast. I said around mental fitness. I mean, and I was really curious because she said the same thing. She's like, you got to have something in your life that's repetitive. You know what I mean? And focusing on those kind of things, like having some sort of a technique, is a really good thing.
Yeah, mine's running, man.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not running
I hear
after a
you.
while, I ain't
No,
right.
I've been off for 2 weeks, man, nursing an old man foot injury. So I'm itching to, it won't be too long, but it all is good.
We do ask one other question,
Yeah.
which I thought could be a 2-part question for you.
Yeah, let's do it. 2 parts.
That guy who's hurting, who's listening to the podcast right now, that's never heard your story, is just starting to hopefully try to make that choice. What would you say to him? And then the other one is, since it's your career and what you're doing, if there's a young adult that's listening who's in sports or whatever, what would you say to them if they were struggling?
Sure. So what was part 1 again?
Part
no, I got it, man.
That college lifestyle's coming back, isn't it?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
always scars. I think, again, it's simple, it's not easy, right? We have to understand that, right? Simple does not mean it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
But the
I like
simple
that.
part is you got to connect with somebody. Because I just think that's how the Lord works. I think that's how God works, just through people,
Yeah.
That's the key, man,
Yeah, I agree.
from how I think.
Yeah.
I like it.
And
then-
if there's somebody young
All right.
out there,
Well, let me add one more. Okay,
Okay.
so I'll throw the running element into it. Get out there and run.
yeah.
Go. I mean, gotta get moving somehow.
Yeah, your version, whatever their version of running is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is actual running. Like that's what I'm saying. I'm saying get out there, go run.
He's a runner, man.
I know he's a runner.
I mean,
believe me.
if it's a half mile, then do the half
Yeah.
mile. But yeah, even
got you.
even slow walkers arrive, man.
Yeah.
If you want to go walk it. It's fine.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody got to run, man. Like, what the fuck does that, man? My knees
Yeah,
all
right.
fucked up.
This guy goes and rues 100 miles. Like,
I know, he does. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's crazy.
And then for the athlete, that
Yeah.
well, does athlete have to be struggling or just in general? Because it's a whole different perspective when you're on the top of the mountain as opposed to
I'd
when
say
you're in the valley.
Our goal in this podcast is to assist those guys who are struggling.
So it's only like there is nothing that grows up on the mountaintop. Nothing lives up there, man. Nothing can live up there. You have to come back down. Well, all the growth takes place in the valley. And because you cannot live up on the mountaintop, like this too shall pass,
Yeah.
is not just rooted in the bad stuff. We
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
it to get through the bad stuff. But this too shall pass is fact because the good times don't last.
Yeah.
That's the proof that
That's
the
right.
bad times don't last.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know? And so it's the process that we just need to focus on, man. Like just keep focused on the process, and the less you focus on the outcome, the more you focus on the process, then the outcome is going to happen.
Yeah.
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 And it's same thing. You got to make it to the mailbox, right?
Yeah.
So whatever like your process has to be, that's where all the focus can be on, and it cannot be on the outcome. More and more like fear and all that stuff, that all lives on the outcome, all lives in the product.
Yeah.
It's the process of like how winning gets done.
Yeah. That's right.
And you can learn about that process on Dr. Rob Bell's website.
That's right, you can. Or you can learn about it right here. We just spent the last, hour and 10 minutes talking about it. So,
That's right.
Well, Rob, thank you very much,
going, man.
Yeah, well, look, no,
Don't I get to ask you guys some
this is the
questions now?
challenge. We run into this. Like, we could sit here for 4 hours, man, but, we're not Joe Rogan, so we're probably not going to do that, right? We want to make sure that our listeners keep coming back.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
So here's how I end my podcast.
Yeah.
I end my podcast with, is there any question I should be asking that I'm not asking? And it gives them one more time to say whatever they want.
Well, there you go. Is there any question that I'm not asking?
Oh, geez, that's good. That's
Maybe
a good
this will be
question,
maybe this will be a part 2, right, Rob? Because we
that's a
want
good
you to come
question.
back.
Oh, really?
Oh, of
Yeah.
course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely want you to come
What is the
back.
name of your podcast?
It's just Mental Toughness Podcast.
Okay,
Dr. Rob
right
Bell.
on.
All right.
Yeah, a lot of athletes, coaches, teams.
Yeah, go
on
check that out. It's good stuff.
Well, we appreciate you being on here,
Yeah,
man.
man. That was fun.
Yeah, you're a great friend, and I just love your inspiration. I love your
appreciate
vantage
you, man.
point. I love your story, man. Like I said, I didn't know that part of your life, and I'm just very grateful that you're able to share that with us. And I'm hoping, as we always do, we hope somebody hears it out there. I trust there will be. I get smoked by people that come up to me every now and then, and they're like, I had a guy like on Facebook last night, which was the craziest thing. I got on Facebook, a guy just reached out, messaged like, hey man, I just checked your guys' podcast out. I love it. And I'm like, look this dude up. He lives somewhere in Florida. And I'm like, okay.
Isn't that the best?
It's crazy.
It's the best, man.
I would have never. And if it's not for, I keep saying, if it's not for LDR Studios, we wouldn't be doing this. Because Eric and I tried to do this, and I was going to buy like some set up yourself, do it yourself podcast, and it wouldn't look like this.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
anyways,
that's the thing, man. We plant trees that we're not going to see.
Yeah.
Don't you? I kind of came up with that. Don't you think, like in heaven, like we would see other people's perspective of our life, like not go through your life again because you already lived it, but how other people.
I hope we do.
Like
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, I hope
Be
we
a
do.
cool vantage
I
point
think
of
it
it.
says that somewhere.
Somewhere.
You know.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again, man. We appreciate you being on, buddy. I love
Thanks,
you, man.
man.
We're out.
Something to hold on to. It is well within my soul. Jesus built me a refuge, someplace I can run to, a place we now call home.